Morning. Okay, so Rick asked me a while ago if I'd be willing to speak, and I said, sure. I just happen to be speaking at camp. How about if I just take what I do at camp, kind of wrap it up for adults a little bit, and present it over 2 weeks? So hopefully you like this week, and you'll come back next week too. But he said, okay, that'd be fine. And I said, all right, so here's what we're going to do. Since this is kind of a camp for adults, I'm going to make it a little camp-like. So we're going to play some games. No, we're not going to do that. I know, some people are disappointed. Maybe next week. Okay, so come back next week and find out. Here's what I want you to do. When I say go, I want you to get up. You're going to fist bump 5 people. Say, hey, it's good to see you today. Listen, you get extra points if you do it to somebody you don't know. And you get extra points because some people aren't going to be able to get up and move around. Extra points if you fist bump somebody that can't get up and move around. Go. You have 1 minute. Go. 5 people. Do it. Sean, how are you? It's cold in flu season. Right? Come on, bump it. Good to see you guys. Okay, that's enough of that. Trying to decide if I'm going to be okay with that. All right, so I just want to welcome everybody. Thank you guys for being here. This summer we did have camp. Our theme was Walk as Lions, and it's based off of a song by Skillet, and I think we might hear that later today, I'm not sure, but it's very upbeat, it's kind of rock and roll, kind of like it. The whole thing is about being bold, walking like lions. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about a little bit today, and then next week too. So our theme verse for that was Proverbs 28:1. The wicked flee though no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as lions. And that was our theme all week during camp, and we're always telling the kids, walk like lions, come on, be bold. But when you really kind of break that down, there's some things you have to kind of consider, ponder, think about. And if you think about this, the wicked, when you say the wicked, we don't use that word too much anymore, but that means somebody did something wrong. And the righteous, there's the root word in righteous means right. You did something right. So when you're talking to kids, sometimes when you're talking to adults, it's easy to break it down that way and say, listen, if you're wicked, if you did something wrong, you're going to be running. You're fleeing. You're looking over your shoulder all the time because you think something's going to catch up with you. But when you're right, it gives you the power to be bold as a lion. And so kind of the way I was thinking about this was, when I'm at work, if I'm doing my job, I have to go hide in my office to do my job so nobody sees me doing it, right? No. I want people to see me doing my job. So my boss will be like, good work, you're doing your job. If I'm doing the right thing, I can be bold. Like, you don't have to go home and be like, I'm going to wait. I was telling the kids, you don't have to wait till your parents go to bed and then be like, now I'm going to clean my room. I don't want them to know I'm cleaning my room. No, you don't have to hide that. If you're cleaning your room, if you're doing the right thing, Mom, Dad, look what I'm doing. Oh yeah, extra allowance, right? When you're doing the right thing, you can be bold. If you're sneaking around hiding what you're doing, what does that tell you? You're probably doing something wrong. So every once in a while, I'll catch my son going from one room to another, and he's like this. And could you be more obvious? I'm like, hey, Ronald, what are you hiding? Nothing. Now, why do you think he's hiding it? Because he thinks that I'm going to tell them? No. Actually, I'm just going to say, is it something to eat? Because we could share. But listen, the wicked flee, though no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as lions. So here's what this really means. Sin makes you a coward. When you have sin in your life, it's going to cripple you. It's going to handicap you. It's going to stop you from doing what God's wanting you to do. Sin makes you a coward. Think about this. Adam and Eve, they're in the garden. They're naked. They don't have anything they're worried about. Their conscience is clear. They're able to be totally transparent with one another and God about everything. They eat the fruit. Now they know they've done something wrong. They hear God walking in the garden, and you know what they do? What did they do? They hide. Why did they hide? Shame. They don't have a clear conscience anymore. They know there's something that they've done, and it makes them afraid. Think about this. David and Goliath. Little shepherd boy goes out, giving his brother, his dad says, take your brother some food, right? He gets out there, and he can't find his brothers, but while he's there, Goliath comes out, and he's taunting the people of Israel, making fun of their God, making fun of them, and David's outraged. How come nobody's going out there? They're like, have you seen that guy? We're not going out there. David's like, well, I'll do it. And then he hears that there's a reward. Oh, you get the king's daughter? Bonus, right? So the king hears that he's talking about this, and he's like, hey, you really are going to go out there? You're just this little guy. And he's like, well, man, what gave him the boldness to do? He didn't have this, well, I did take my brother's allowance, or Dad's really mad at me because no. He has this clear conscience. And because he's got this clear conscience, he knows, you know who's got my back? Actually, he says this, since the theme is walk as lions. He says, the God that delivered me from the paw of the lion and the bear will deliver me from this Philistine. What gives him that bravery, that boldness? Well, first of all, he's a kid, so he doesn't have a whole lot of life experience of bad things. But, you know what I'm saying? If he had all this sin in his life that he was like, would he be confident that God would have his back? Probably not. But he didn't have that. His conscience was clear. He was bold as a lion. So listen, sin makes you a coward. I need you to listen to your conscience. What is that? There's this little voice in our head. God says that our spirit knows the difference between right and wrong. You know. And you guys know. You guys hear that little voice in your head, right? Mine usually says, that's a bad idea. So I'll be ready to do something. I hear this little voice. I'm like, that's a bad idea. And I've trained myself to listen to that. And then you're like, oh, okay, now I need to hide, right? Because I don't want anybody to see me doing it. No, that would be if I was doing the wrong thing. That little voice. Oh, actually, lately my conscience has been a little sarcastic. Because this is true. So last night, my family and the Pickards, we went down to Indianapolis to watch The Lion King. Walk like lion. There's this Lions theme everywhere. And so as we're in Indianapolis, they have these little scooters everywhere. If anybody's been down there, you can rent them. They're electric, and you just have to go a couple times, and you can just zip all over the place. And there's people going everywhere. So we decided, hey, let's try that. So Jack Pickard and Morgan Getz decide, they're young 20s. They're like, let's get these. So they're zipping around. Well, then they come back, and they're like, Dad, you guys want to try? So Randy and I get on these scooters, and I hear this little voice. What could be the worst thing that would happen? So we're doing fine. Until then Jen and Julie get on, and then I'm thinking, something bad could happen. So now my conscience says, what's the worst thing that could happen? But I recognize that as sarcasm, and then my mind has to evaluate, could this really turn bad? And if it could, then my conscience says, that's wrong, don't do it. You guys have those little voices? I spend a lot of time with elementary kids when they get in trouble. Say, at any point in this story, did that little voice say this is a bad idea? And sometimes they're like, yeah. said, you need to listen to that. That's there for a reason. Here's what else we know. If you ignore it, guess what happens to that voice? Finally, you're not going to hear it. You can sear your conscience. I have met people, they never hear that. They'll do whatever they want because they don't feel any guilt or remorse. It's just like, yeah. They've ignored that voice. In their spirit, they know the difference between right and wrong, but if you ignore it, it will go away. So, listen to your conscience. Practice it. Oh, yeah, that kind of got... Yeah, that's good. All right, so here's a story. There's a verse, Proverbs 20:27. It says, God put a lamp or a candle in our soul to search us. And many years ago, when I first moved out here in the country, I have a chicken house on my property. And I inherited that from Julie's grandparents. It's the house where Bill Klein grew up. And my father-in-law, Don, and Harold grew up in this house. There's a chicken house. And we have eggs that they send us at school, and they put them in little incubators. And then they hatch them, and the kids get to watch these chickens hatch. So they send this email out. And they said, hey, we have all these baby chicks. Does anybody want to take them home? Because they just give you the eggs. And then once the chicks are born, they're yours. What are you going to do with them? So I think I'm super smart. I'm like, I got this chicken house. So I send back this email. Are they broilers or layers? That means, are they meat chickens or are they going to lay eggs? They send back, they're leghorns, they're egg layers. That's what I wanted. So I'm like, sure, I'll take them. So I bring home this half dozen chicks. I get some feed. Bill Klein hooks me up. He's like, here, I'll just give you a little bit of feed because they won't need very much in the beginning. You only have a half dozen. We get them going. He says you can get more at the mill. So I raise these chicks. Guess how many eggs I got from those chicks? Does anybody know why? Every single one of them was a rooster. So I became the laughing stock of Union Township. But Bill was very gracious. He came to me and he said, hey, listen, usually what we do is we go up to the mill, up Simpson there, and we get sex chicks, which means they all come as hens, and then you can raise them. Next year when I order, if you want a couple, we can work something out. I said, thank you. The next year we had lots of eggs, but the first year, no. So, turns out, I learned this as well. This is going to be kind of a spoiler alert here, maybe a warning. This is kind of like PG-13. So there's this talk you get when you're growing up called The Birds and the Bees. Did anybody get that when they were a kid? The Birds and the Bees? Okay, this is the birds half of it. If you guys haven't heard this yet, just kind of process it the best you can. All right. So, turns out, chickens lay eggs, or hens, right? They lay eggs whether there's a dad or not. But if there's a dad, then the eggs might actually turn into baby chicks. So you have to have a mom and a dad to have a baby. Did you guys know that? Okay, so one of the things they do is they take these eggs, and if they want to make sure that there's a chick in it, they put it on this light. They call it candling. Has anybody heard of this? So they actually candle the egg, and they can look inside of it to see if there's a baby in there or not. So when I read this verse, God put a lamp or a candle in our souls. This is what I thought of. He's putting me on this light, and He's looking inside of me, and He can tell if my conscience is clear or not. Do I have sin in my life? Is there stuff in there that I need to deal with? I thought, man, He's candling me. He's looking inside me. He knows what's going on in there. And listen, a clear conscience will make you brave. Sin is going to make you a coward. A clear conscience will make you great. So what if I do have something in there? How can I clear my conscience? Well, the Bible gives some principles. First of all, you need to make it right. So if I offend my friend Sean, somehow I need to repair that relationship with Sean. But I've also sinned against God. So I need to make it right with my relationship with God too. So I'm going to make it right. I'm going to confess it to God. But then he tells us to do one more thing. We need to repent. We need to walk away. So whatever I did to offend him, guess what I shouldn't do in the future? That offensive thing. So if you want to make your conscience right, if you candle yourself and you're like, yeah, I've got this stuff in here, it's holding me back. I don't feel like I'm bold to go do these things because people are going to say, yeah, but what about that time? Or you're just like that. Or you know what I need to do? I need to make it right here. I need to make it right here. And then I need to walk away from it. Don't keep doing that. Does this all make sense? All right. And you know what? This is Psalm 139, verse 23. It says, search me, God, know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me. Lead me in the way everlasting. Wow. That would be an amazing prayer. God, look inside me. Get rid of anything that's making me afraid. Help make me right with you. And then be bold as a lion. All right. So digest that for a little bit. Because here's what happens. At camp, we have 7 chapels. You guys only get me twice. So you're going to get 3 chapels today and 4 chapels next week. So we're going on to chapel number 2. You guys got your conscience clear? Here we go. Chapel number 2. This one I titled In the Lion's Den. Because, let's be honest, if you're going to talk about lions, you can't skip the most famous lion story in the Bible. Daniel in the Lion's Den. You guys know that one? Did you guys do your UC reading? It's kind of exciting. Here it goes. Oh, and think about this. Daniel, if you know the story, he had a clear conscience. He didn't have any skeletons in his closet. He's in this political position, and these guys are coming to him, and he's going to get promoted. But they can't find anything wrong with him. It says, at this, the administrators and satraps, those are like the governors, the mayors, the higher-ups, they tried to find grounds for charges against Daniel in his conduct of government affairs, but they were unable to do so. They could find no corruption in him because he was trustworthy and neither corrupt nor negligent. They couldn't find anything wrong with him. He's getting promoted, and so before he does, he has to be approved by Congress. And so they hold all these hearings. They look into his past. They try to find people in his past that are going to come say, does this sound familiar? If they can find somebody to come out and say, hey, when you were 17, you did, they can't find anybody. So you know what they do? They make some stuff up, right? Because that's what here's Daniel. He's bold. He's got it going on. You think your life is stressful? This guy's in charge of an entire province. And now he's getting promoted to even more. I mean, he's got the stress of all this going on. And this is back in the day where if you screw up, you don't get fired. They just kill you. And then, just to make it good, they kill your family too. So, don't screw up. You think you've got stress. So here's Daniel. They decide to make some things up about him. So this is what happens. They pass a law. They said to the king, hey king, you know what would be cool? What if we pass this law that says people can't pray to anybody except you because you're the king? King's like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. Doesn't realize it's a trap to get Daniel. So he signs it. Once he signs it, it's law. Even he can't change it once it's been signed. As soon as that happens, they go, because they know what Daniel's going to do. He's going to keep doing what he always does. Now, when Daniel learned that the decree had been published, he went home to his upstairs room where the windows opened towards Jerusalem. 3 times a day he got down on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to God, just as he had done before. So these men went as a group, and they found Daniel praying and asking God for help. We just caught you. You broke the law. Guess what happens now? Not humiliation, not shame, not disgrace, not a little prison time. You're going to die. We just got rid of you. So they go back to the king. You guys know the rest of the story, right? Gets thrown in the lion's den. But look, here's the deal. We all have lion's dens in our lives. He's not even in the lion's den yet, but he is. He's got people that are trying to stab him in the back. They're trying to bring him down. They're lying about him. They're setting him up. We all have lion's dens. Work, school, family, church. Wherever those people are out there trying to get you, that's our lion's den. But Daniel knew a secret. He knew how to handle that kind of stuff. I'm going to tell you his secret. But you need to know something about secrets. When someone tells you a secret, I know you guys, you're not good at keeping them. Secrets, the best way to get somebody to talk about something is tell them, this is a secret. Don't tell anybody. Now everybody knows, right? At least that my kids are that way. Because I live just down the road here. To get here, I have to go on Simpson Road, come off 24. There's those train tracks. One time I took those tracks just a little too fast. The kids were with me, and I was like, hey, guys, let's just keep this a secret between us. We don't have to tell Mom. As soon as we walk in the door, hey, Mom, guess what Dad did? I'm like, you guys, seriously? Or I go Christmas shopping. I'm like, this is what we're getting your mom for Christmas. It's a surprise. It's a secret. Don't tell her. Mom, guess what we got you for Christmas? Seriously? You guys are horrible at secrets. So I'm going to tell you Daniel's secret, but this is the one condition. You have to tell everybody. This is Daniel's secret. So here's the deal. Daniel put God first. He's got this amazingly intense life going on. Things are happening all around him. But it says every day, 3 times a day, he stops what he's doing and he puts God first. And when he does that, things happen. So I brought this little illustration. I know most of you have probably seen it before, but I just think it's kind of fun. So this is your life. This is the stuff in our life. Let's see how this works. Watch what happens when we fill our life with so much little stuff. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I'm watching the news, I'm getting ready for school, I'm doing all these things, and this is kind of loud, so I put a little towel in there. These are marbles. I mean, these are the little things in your life. Like, I don't know, you got to mow the yard, you got to... There it is. Now your life's full of that stuff. But then you have other things in your life too, right? You got kind of medium-sized stuff. You got things you got to do. And then what if you had big stuff in your life? You got to spend time with your family. You got to go to work. You got to, there's big stuff in there too. And then here's what I do, and I'm bad at this, is God's important to me. And I put God in my life every day. But sometimes my life, I get it all filled up with all that stuff. And guess where God comes? He's last. And when I try to stick him in my life, guess what happens? There's no room in my life for God because I filled it up. Watching TV, playing video games, doing my homework, making sure the yard looks good, sitting on the couch with my wife and holding her hand. That's like one of those big things. So, and I'll be honest with you, I'm bad at this. Life gets away from me and I get my life filled up with all these things and God doesn't fit. But Daniel didn't do that. You know what Daniel does? Daniel says, yep, my life is so full, I got to run this entire government because the king trusts me. And if I don't do it well, they're going to kill me. So what I need to do is I need to put God in first. This is, see, because walk like a lion, this is God. We'll call him Aslan. So I got to put God in there first, make sure he fits in my life. Now, as long as I put God in first, and then I can put in some of these big things. Oh, no, wait, let's put in some medium things too. Make sure it all. So here's our life. It gets filled up so fast because we keep putting stuff in there, right? And we get some big things in there. Oh, and then you got to get some little things in there like brushing your teeth. Then I fit in some more big things. And then put in some middle things. And then I put in all those little things again. Here's what we find out. If I put God in there first, what happens? Yeah, it fits. And you guys know that. When you wake up in the morning and you say, okay, God, this day is yours. And you start your day out with God, how does that day go? Does it go better? Mine does. My life fits together so much better when I put God first. And I know that. But what happens? We get all caught up in those urgencies of life, and you got to deal with this crisis, and oh, this broke, and oh, we've got to go pick this kid up over here. And all of a sudden, you're at the end of the day, and you're exhausted, and you're like, oh yeah, God, I'm going to put him in my life. And it's too late. He doesn't fit. So what did Daniel know? What was his secret? Put God. Oh yeah, put God first. So think about this. Where's your lion's den? And then, maybe the bigger question is, how can you put God first in your life? Okay, number 3, stand as giants. I better check. They told me Rick talks forever, so I had plenty of time, but, oh yeah, we got time. Here we go. So, I wanted next to talk about Daniel's 3 best friends, since we're already in Daniel. And these guys had a lion's den of their own going on. I think you guys know the story. The king, Nebuchadnezzar, he builds this statue. And he tells everybody, this is me. Everybody needs to worship this statue of me. So he had kind of a God complex going on. And actually this happens first, and then Daniel's story comes later. But so there's this statue, and for some reason Daniel isn't in this story. So we don't know where he is. Maybe he's already in charge in some other province, or maybe he's right next to the king and he's watching this happen to his friends. But he says everybody needs to bow down, and everybody does, except his 3 friends. And their names were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You guys know that story? And I'll tell you this, we're going to talk a little bit about fear next week. And when I talk to kids, the things that they're most afraid of is that a bad guy is going to get them. I mean, it comes out in different ways. They're afraid of clowns, or they're afraid of a guy with a gun, or they're afraid somebody's going to steal them from their... But it's a bad guy who's going to come get them. These 3 boys lived that. A bad guy came to their country, wiped out almost everybody, and those people he didn't wipe out, he took with him. He stole them from their home, changed their names, changed their language, couldn't even eat the same foods anymore. He stole them. So here are these 3 kids that are terribly traumatized, right? Except they're not, because they know Daniel's lesson. They put God first. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are hanging out, and it says, after this decree is made, I lost that one. I'll have to read it off here. So it says, if we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. Listen, we got this. You can throw us in there. We're going to do what's right. But if you do, our God can save us from this. But this is the verse that I love the best. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. But even if he does not, can't do it. Sorry. So as I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking this. In our culture, we talk sometimes about what are you willing to die for? And I listened to this history podcast a while ago. He said, what are you willing to die for? And what if your country had to fight for all these things? And I was thinking, yeah. Would I be willing to die for my family? You bet. My faith? Mm-hmm. My freedom? Probably. My friends? Okay. That's easy, I think. Because there are times when you have to make that decision, your conscience says, what's the worst that could happen? You die. So I win again, right? We'll talk about that next week. But what I think is a harder question is, not what are you willing to die for, but what are you willing to live for? That's a harder question. Am I willing to die for my family? Right now. But am I willing to live for them for the next however many years I have left for the next 40 years? No, that'd be 90 maybe. So the next 40 years of my life, am I willing to live for my family? That's a little bit tougher question. Am I willing? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, not only are we willing to die for what we believe, we're willing to live for it too. So what are you willing to live for? I don't know if you've thought about that before. And once you've decided that, what does that look like? What does it mean to be willing to live for your family or your friends or your faith? What are you willing to live for? And let's talk about faith for a minute. Oh, they chose. Listen what they chose. They chose the path of obeying God at all costs. Even if you don't, we're still going to do this. So what are you willing to live for? Oh, and I have this little thought too about faith. Because we talk about faith a lot. They live their faith. And this is hard because in the Bible it says you need to believe in, you need to believe in, you need to believe in. And that's right, you do. But our English language has changed. And believe in doesn't really mean what it used to. For example, if I go to elementary school and I say, do you believe in, you know what the next thing they're thinking I'm going to say is? Santa Claus. Do you believe in Santa Claus? No spoilers here, I'm not going to say anything. It's just, do you believe in Santa Claus? Or, here's another one. I have some friends that are very afraid of flying in airplanes. Do you believe in airplanes? Of course, they're right there. Of course I believe in airplanes. But do they have the faith to get in an airplane? No, because it could crash. Well, it could. But do you believe in? And I think you do believe in, but do you believe? Do you believe? And I think we need to make a distinction there. So with God, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they believe in God. But so did a lot of those Babylonians. But did they believe? They believed. They were willing to act on their believing in. My favorite is when people say, I don't believe in something that's obviously a real thing. Like I was having a conversation a while back, and one of the people in the conversation says, I don't believe in guns. Which I understand what they were saying. It's the idea, the concept, the violence. They don't believe in that. I understand that. But what they said is, I don't believe in guns. I'm like, they're real. I can prove it. See what I'm saying? The English language has changed, the way we use it. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't just believe in something, they were willing to believe. They were willing to step on the airplane. They were willing to say, God, I believe in your ability to save us from this fiery furnace. More than that, I believe, and I'm willing to take that step. And they also knew he might not. It's okay. Not only am I willing to die for you, I'm willing to live for you. So then we have this. You need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what He has promised. Don't just believe in. Believe. Persevere. Make it to the end. Make it to the end. All right. That was the first three. So here's what we know. You have a conscience. You need to listen to it. And if God candles you and you see that there's something in there that you need to make right, you need to make it right. And then you need to confess. And then you need to walk away from it. And Daniel had a secret. His secret was, my life is super busy. I've got all the stress and responsibility, but I know something that's going to make it better. You have to put God first. And then there's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They said, you know what? Not only do we believe in God, we believe. We have something that we're not only willing to die for, we have something we're willing to live for. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you that you do give us the ability to know the difference between right and wrong. We thank you that you put us in a position where sometimes we have to put you first. But when we do, Lord, life works. I just pray that you would give us a love, a passion, not just to be willing to die for you, Lord, but to be willing to live for you. Candle us, see what's in our hearts, make us bold as lions. Help us to be right with you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.